Sherae is a singer, songwriter, producer, and actress from Washington, D.C. After traveling in a world of musical theater, she's now writing original music to express her truths and perspectives she's experienced. Being back home encouraged her to start a nonprofit that supports and mentors young creative adults to turn their passion into profession beyond what she did. Music is her passion and love is her message. From Southeast DC to Southeast Asia, we have international performing artist Sherae on the Work in Progress podcast.
All right, we're back on the Work in Progress podcast today. We are here with a special guest, Sherae. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Joe?
Good. So glad to have you here today. So we want to kind of go first through your origin story as far as how you got into music and then eventually how you were able to turn this into a career.
Okay.
So kind of start from the beginning, like how'd you get started? Was it as a child that you kind of had a passion for music?
It's right there. I think you, based on what you see as a child, has a really heavy influence on how you're going to be as an adult.
Okay.
So for me, it was always seeing, family around music and around food and around just a good time, like fellowship. We'd all just gather at one house and my aunts would be singing with their, clothes on before they go out and hit their, they were in a girl group. Well, I'm telling you, they were in a girl group. And they used to sing and harmonize all the time at, family functions. And it was just always so good. I always looked up to them and, in the background trying to do their dance moves and stuff. So it was definitely started at a young age.
Okay.
And that influenced how I wanted to be as an adult because, I feel like it's so important to be in those type of environments where it's just like love and it's food and fellowship and music and just good vibes, So it inspired me to want to create those same experiences for, as an adult.
All right. What growing up, what musical influence outside of family? What were some of your influences?
I would say, so I loved oldies but goodies. So in all of the girl groups, my aunts, their group was called the GJGs.
Okay.
And so the Diana Ross, the Supreme era, but I really loved I was influenced a lot by the male singers. So like Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, I'm forgetting Whitney Houston in terms of like more modern, like I'm a 90s girl. So Whitney Houston, just really like those powerhouse vocals. And can't forget, I'm from DC. So Marvin Gaye, like top two, not two.
So what age? Okay. So when did you actually start creating music on your own? Whether it's just even writing, like journaling in a notebook.
Yeah. So I started creating music on my own, I would say it was a college. Yeah, in college, in terms of like song, like with melody, lyrics, harmonies. Matter of fact, that's when I started to actively create the music. It's so funny. In middle school, this is the first time I created music in public, was in middle school. And this is when they had the instruments back in the day in the school, something similar to this. And, they had the instruments and the microphone and everything. And in our music class, we had to create a song. I forgot clearly how it went, but I would never forget it was a Tupac instrumental.
Okay. You remember which instrumental it was?
Man, I wonder if it Hail Mary. It was
wow.
Hail Mary.
In middle school?
In middle school. Okay. And I sang the chorus, and then you got the guys in the class that want to rap.
Yeah.
And so I sang the chorus and it was so cool. It was so much fun. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is cool. And everybody was like, yeah, she can really sing. So after that, it really spawned into, talent shows and, being more just hands-on with the music in high school, which led to me doing it, creating it actively in college, like with GarageBand and all those things.
Okay. So kind of take us through, let's fast forward a little bit, because you're in college now. basically, and that's when are you starting to learn how to work in the studio as well? Kind of take us through.
That process is very unorthodox. It was me just self-taught, going through GarageBand, using my resources, looking up YouTube videos on how to use GarageBand. And till this day, I still use it. And because sometimes it's like when you have, or even voice notes. So really it's me in my dorm, it's me in a park, wherever the feeling comes over me in terms of writing, getting out an expression or how I felt. It was really just to hum it first, get a melody. Get a melody going. And then, or it might start out as poetry. So it depends on how I'm feeling or where I am, what I have access to in that moment to create the work. Okay. And so that's how it really started. And self-taught in terms of GarageBand and moving things over, and that process, it frustrated me in the beginning. Okay. But just being able to be patient and know that, with repetition, it helped. Repetition. You just stay in it and keep doing it so that you can better grasp it. So if you just do it one time, you're not gonna learn nothing.
Exactly.
So I had to keep at it.
So did you originally go to college to pursue music, or did you have something else in mind?
I did.
And then before you went to college, were people saying, okay, maybe you should go here for this, but then you really wanted to go in a different direction?
It's funny because it was always, for me, I always knew that I wanted to do this. When, like I was telling you before, in high school, from middle school to high school, it was becoming more and more apparent that I'm doing the talent shows. Like, I'm the singer of the school, pretty much, like me and other few other people. So they were like, my teachers encouraged me, mentors encouraged me, hey, you should audition for this musical, you should do this school play and stuff like that.
So you had a lot of people kind of pushing you.
Yeah, definitely. And I was always involved, like, with extracurriculum stuff. So my dance teacher or my music teacher referred me to the college that I ended up going to, and AMDA, College and Conservatory of the Performing Arts.
Okay.
And so
where's that located?
It's in New York City, and it's a LA campus too.
Okay.
And so she was like, hey, you should audition here. You need headshots, and you need to sing them a song, with some sheet music. I'm like, what is sheet music? So it was that. And I was like, you know what? Couldn't hurt to audition. I thought I was going to NYU. I swore up and down. I was like, you know what? I'm going to NYU. This is what I'm going to do to kick off my singing career. So I thought that I was going to be going to a certain college, but AMDA ended up being the perfect fit. But I always knew that it would be something music related. And I wouldn't have went to school otherwise, to be honest, because I just felt so deeply passionate about the music and everything. And I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to, no shade to the lawyers. We need y'all. But I just didn't want to, I didn't want to waste my time, in that area. So.
Well, you were one of those students that was 100% sure that, like, this is what I want to pursue. Because how a lot of students get to college and they're like, I'm not sure if I want to go into IT. I'm not sure if I want to go into business. So you knew from there.
I knew.
This is what I want to do.
I knew.
This is what I want to pursue.
I knew.
It's got anything that involves music, I want to be a part of it.
Correct. And it was just about where. Okay. It was just about where. And God is good. So it was AMDA. It's my alumni. Shout out to AMDA.
So after school, you're getting into the real world now. Did you jump right into your field that you want? Did you jump right into pursuing music right away, or did you have to get a regular job like a lot of other college kids and then figure, because it's like now the college spits you out and now you're starting from scratch. You're like, now I'm in the pros and it's dog eat dog world out here. Now I might have to get a job until I can get this to where I want to go.
There it is. That's it. It's so, remember, like, childhood, middle school, high school, everything's like, oh, great. I can do this. I can audition for this play, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Once you finish college, I when I got to college, I was taking certain things for granted because I was still trying to I went, out of state. So I was still trying to grasp a hold of the culture that I was immersed in at the time. And so to answer that question, it was both. For a short amount of time, I did some off-Broadway stuff, and that was after college in New York City. And but before that, I was working a job. I had to pay for food and just living. And so I decided to stick around and stay in New York City and give it a try before just coming back home. So yeah, that definitely meant go get you a job, sis. Go get you a job, and figure it out, and then still audition, still stay engaged. And so that's what it was. And after I booked the gig, I left that job. I was like, bye, y'all.
After
See
the
ya.
one gig?
Yes.
Now, what gig was this?
So it's called Hair, the
Okay.
musical.
Mhm.
It's American Tribal Love rock musical. And that was my first professional, all on, full cast musical theater. That's what I majored in, was musical theater. That was my first production, paid gig out of state. Well, it was in New York, but it was in Albany,
Okay.
upstate.
Yeah.
And yeah, I booked that gig, and I was like, peace, I'm out. No more this 9 to 5 life for me. I thought I was like, yes,
You on top of the world.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm finished. No, I went back to the 9 to
There
5
was a couple
world.
storms that came along the way.
Absolutely. After that. And so, but even then being in the doing that first gig really added more fuel, It's like, okay, if I can get one, I can get more, So more came after that.
Now,
but-
what was the audition process like for that particular gig? What how did you prepare for that? What did that entail?
So it really was, and I was fresh from college at that point, so I still was retaining a lot of the audition prep and what you wear and how you present yourself when you're in the room, what you're singing.
Okay.
So preparation is key. Preparation is key. I can't stress it enough that specific gig, I can't, over 13 years ago now, but I wonder if it was I think it might have been an open call, it's always in New York City, it's always an open, open casting call, and there'll be, it's so funny, I'll probably end up doing what's it called? One of those memes where it's when you're in an audition room and, you have the singer who's obnoxiously, doing her vocal warm-ups. Then you have the dancer that's in the corner stretching her limbs. And then you have the quiet person that's over there just, chilling out and their own little meditation. Then you have, the frantic one that's asking everyone questions,
Worried about it.
Oh, the chaos is chaotic. So that was what the audition process was like. For me, I'm very introverted extrovert, so it's when I'm in that space, I like to just stay in my own zen, because some people will try to distract you if you are a creative and you are
out of competition, because they know that we're competing for the same
absolutely
job.
We're competing for the same job, so, or at least the same type. They can be in the world of musical theater in New York City. Is very much, they like to stay traditional with the types of people that are cast. That's why that the Little Mermaid thing was a little uproar, because it's oh my goodness, this is not the traditional, things are changing, times are changing. So in the audition world, it's similar to that too. When you see a Black girl coming in and you auditioning for Princess Tiana, Princess and the Frog, you okay, she going out for Tiana too. Pretty Black girl walking.
They got their crosshairs on her.
Absolutely. And so really it's just how you show up in the room. It's just how you show up when you go into the room and audition. And Lord, hopefully the pianist doesn't screw you over, and and so it's really just about what you bring into the room when you audition, no matter what you sing. Even if you mess up the words, it's about how you recover.
So what are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to auditioning, as far as the prep and when it's actually time to perform?
Got you. So a list of, we're going to start with the don'ts first. The don'ts. A list of don'ts. Do not go in there and you can't be rude, right? No ego. You can't be rude to them people. They don't know you. Even if you are somebody, just keep it cute, keep it humble. Don't be rude. Don't go in like diva style, right? When it comes to the pianist, it's like being rude to your sound guy. You don't want to do that because he's going
He can
to
screw you over
he's
doing
going
it,
to
yeah.
screw you over. Like, so you want to you don't want to be rude to the piano player or anyone that's in the room, really. You don't want to ever, this is so awkward in performance. If you're out there, don't do this. Don't look them in the eye. If you're singing I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, you are not supposed to sing it to them. You look above them and pick a point on the wall and sing it there. Do not sing directly to them. That is so awkward.
Okay.
So awkward. So those are a few things. Don't wise. Don't or do. So the do's, I got a list of do's. So when you go in there, it's all about how you enter the room. So don't focus on the door. Like if you go in, open the door. It's not about the door, it's about you. So close the door. Keep eye contact with them when you first come in. Don't be like, oh.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You just took the focus off of you. You want to, hey, how are you? You know what I mean? Keep the eye contact before you begin singing. You want to articulate. You want to just check in with your posture. Make sure you're sitting upright or standing upright. You want to always slate your name and where you're from, and then go into the song. You know, you never want to tell them a whole backstory and things like that. So those are some of the do's and some of the don'ts. Y'all got some free game here on the Work in Progress podcast.
Appreciate it. So are you able to kind of take the temperature on when you're doing the audition on the judges? Do you kind of know when you strike it out, and then
Absolutely.
do you know when it's like, ooh, that
Absolutely.
didn't? I might have felt like it went well, but I
Yeah.
can tell by their expressions that.
Yeah. You could tell when I would say be a fly on the wall too. Like when you're not actually in the room, like say, if they're holding you over here before it's time for you to go in, just be a fly on the wall and like listen and look at the energy, because what will tell you, for me, I just did an audition and I know I booked it. I don't know when, I don't know where, but I know I booked it and I didn't even slate my name. I didn't even tell. I literally walked out. I was like, oh my God, I didn't say my name.
You just walked in and you started.
No, because I think that's what threw me off, is because she complimented me on the casting director. She complimented me on what I wore. Okay. She was like, oh my God, that color is fabulous. And I was just like, oh my, like, kind of like, I got excited. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I knew her name because she taught a master class the day before. And so as I was going over to place my sheet music at the piano, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. So it felt like we already knew each other. And then I get there. She's like, yeah, just start whenever you're ready. Okay. And so then, I should have been like, oh, thank you so much for having me. My name is Sherae. But, things always, when it comes to the audition room inside, it can get a little, you're not going to do everything right. Right. But how I knew that I booked it was the questions at the end. She wanted to hear another song.
So that's a good sign right there.
It's a good sign. She wanted to know where I was currently residing, and she thought that I was a student there. That's the Black Don't Crack. She thought that I was still a student there, but she's like, oh, no, wait, you're alumni, because she was pulling up my profile. Now it's digital, so you don't necessarily have to bring headshot and resume. Okay. They pull up your account that they have on file. And then they read, your height, weight, all these things, right, from there. And so that let me know she was interested. That let me know, she had a smile on her face. She was just like, okay, just feeling out like, okay, I'm going to put this in the keep pile, from today.
So a lot of times if they're not interested, be like, okay, thank you for your time.
Correct.
Move on.
Quickly. They will chop. Okay, they will give, thank you for your time. Sometimes you won't even finish the song, because think about it. If you have 500 people to see that day, you got to keep it moving, and some people, they want to sing, you got to cut it off 16 bars and keep it moving, but if she's asking you for a second song, knowing she has 500 people, they can wait. I'm going to take this time, because that's their job, is to find talent. So that's how those are some of the signs where that they're interested.
So making a living as far as doing these play productions, is this something that somebody come in, like when they're first coming into this, is it something they can do full time, or is it something they can do part time while they build out their resume, get experience in these productions? You don't have to talk about any numbers, but can somebody really, actually make a good living on this?
Absolutely. I think it depends on the person and what angle they're trying to, or what their goals are within the industry. I feel that this is definitely, if I'm fresh out of high school and college necessarily might not be for me, you can make a living on a cruise ship and get paid to do what you love, and get a free vacation and free room and board and free food. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and be gone for about 5 to 6 months out of the year. Now, that is a very untraditional lifestyle. So it just really depends on the person and who you are and what you're trying to do. Now, you can also do like Broadway, right? It's the same type of concept, but you're not on water. You're stationary on one stage, and you're in one place. So people are coming to see you. You're not necessarily going to here. Okay. So it just really depends, but you can definitely make a living out of being a performer, and I want to really get rid of that stigma where it's like, oh, you got to be a starving artist. You got to do this, that, and the third. Like, no, like I've made a pretty good living off of, contracts. And I prefer like contracts, not necessarily doesn't have to be cruise contracts. But again, like if you think about a recording artist, right? They have a contract as well, it's different terms. One album contract. Correct. Yeah. You have to do this amount of tours to, fulfill this contract. We're going to upfront you this amount of money. Right. It's all the same. It's just depending on how, what your goals are truly.
So before we get into that, because you had a contract with the cruise line, but before we get into that, talk about that first paid gig that you had. How was that?
Yeah, that was, man, they was paying. Listen, you talk about me living in New York City, working my 9 to 5, honey, I was getting out of there. Okay. I was going, it was very much going. I think I shared a room. I was like, whatever, I'll share a room. I don't want to go and clock back in. So I'm going to share this room. Yeah. I had a food stipend. It wasn't that much, First gigs are never like, oh my God, this is the one. Sometimes they are.
It's a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone for sure. And it's a step I'd rather get paid to do what I love, right? And sacrifice and so that I'm doing that.
Right. And it doesn't feel like actual work.
No.
Because you actually love doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though there's things that you don't like about, prepping, whatever it is, but it's like, hey, I'd rather do this than be punching this clock over here. And I hate everything about this job.
Yeah. So it was that. And it was funny enough, like the cast and everything, performers, they have their personalities. I'll just say that. Okay. So
egos.
Yeah. And for me, I'm very, what you see is what you get. I'm super chilled, but sometimes I get a little, spunky and just, random and fun and stuff like that. But sometimes I don't deal with like the cattiness. I don't deal with like the gossipy, I don't deal with that. So if I don't feed into that and we don't click, then we just won't click. Cause
do you see that sometimes where maybe one performer might try to sabotage another performer by saying, hey, Sherae, come here. So-and-so, blah, 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 and try to like stir up drama and then see if you're going to take the bait. And then you start talking back and then they go like, see, yeah, she was talking about you. And you just, like you say, you try to stay away from it. And you're like, hey, I'm here for a particular job. I don't care what they're doing, whatever y'all got going. Is that typical as well?
That is very typical. It is unfortunate, but I feel like in just anywhere, in the performing arts it's kind of worse in the entertainment industry, but I think you'll find that anywhere. It's just really about the path that you're on, and in the 20s, when we was in our 20s, we was feeding into all of that. Right. So we wanted the smoke, we was probably creating the smoke, the fire and the wind and the earth, so it's like we, thank God for deliverance from all of that.
Now, how long was this first gig? How long did this last?
The first gig was, I know it had to be about probably like 3 to 4 months. It was a really short one. It wasn't that long.
And how do you prepare for your next gig while in the midst of working this gig? Like, are you able to take time and audition for other ones, or is it just they consume so much of your time where you don't really have time to dedicate to anything else because you're so like tunnel vision locked in on doing your best to fulfill this gig?
That's a very good question. So 3 answers, right? So it depends on where you are. So I'll just speak on that situation and actually what I should have did. But once you're in rehearsal, once you book it, you go to rehearsals immediately. Okay. And then you're really locked in rehearsals. I wouldn't encourage like auditioning while you're in rehearsals, just so you can make sure you're doing the best job and dedicating that prep time that you're going to need, because once rehearsals is over, they expect you to know them lines that they paying you for. So excuse me, guys, they expect you to know those lines that you're paying for. They expect you to know, your choreography and things like that. So you really want to dive into rehearsal as much as possible. Even if it's some prep time might be 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 hours, 2 months, of rehearsal time. And so it really just depends. But, so I would say dedicate the time to rehearsal time and then install. So it's rehearsal and then it's install. Like you actually go to the theater and install the show. Okay. Apply everything you did in rehearsal to on stage and with lighting and with sound. And
it's a real kind of like a simulation, but without the crowd.
Correct. It's that because they have to get these mic levels right. They have to get the lighting right. They have to get the sound. They have to capture it and all of those things. So that really took a lot of time too when you're installing the show. And then so between those 2 periods, I would say just lock in completely so that you can know like where you are and things like that. And then after that time period, and after you've done a few shows and it's up and running and you're doing the same thing every night, then I would say, which I didn't do and I should have did to keep that snowball effect going, I should have been thinking about the next gig. Okay. I should have, or I don't really want to say gig. I'm going to start saying contract. I should have been thinking about the next contract so that I can keep that same momentum going. But I got complacent, as performer. Oh yeah, like, we good. Like we doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's after those 2 stages, then yeah, take the time to look online and see what else is out there after you finish so that you can be prepared for what's coming next. Because if you don't, I had to go back and work at that 9 to 5. Like, hey y'all, it's me again.
I'm crawling back.
Hey y'all, how you doing? Hey big head. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was given, and so that's pretty much like the process. It's you always want to be prepared in terms of like what you're doing before you leave instead of waiting last minute. So, but depending on the situation and where you are. Nowadays, you can do online submissions and stuff like that. So it's easier. But back in my day, it was still online submissions, but now, after COVID and stuff, it's that's all they kind of want to save them time to,
saves
time and money.
Time.
Yeah. So
do you think there's any cons to that as far as everybody being able to do submissions online? Is there more people versus, okay, they're saying come up to New York. Not everybody might have the time to travel up there versus like, if they're saying I can audition on Zoom, 5,000 people to audition. And now it's like, hey, now I got more competition to deal with.
Yeah, it's that. But it really is too. If you got an email of 5,000 people submitting to be on a Work in Progress podcast, how many are you realistically going to look at?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because y'all outside, y'all working. You know what I mean? So how many of those are you really going to see per day? You're not. So that's really the problem, is not being able to be seen by a person and not know. You get lost in the shuffle. Exactly. So that's why I do like to go in person now, even if it is 500. They're not me, and the audition we'll put a pin on that, but it's better to go in person.
Okay. because they can actually see how
Yes.
your aura, your
Yeah.
likeness, all of that.
Yeah, they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Mhm.
You know, online it's just like, you know, it's not as impactful to me.
You went back to the 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
got humbled.
Mm-hmm.
Just say that. Where did you go from there?
So funny. I consider myself very humble. I think it was more so a thing of I just wasn't prepared.
Okay.
You know, I was just thinking
maybe inexperienced
Cor-
because you didn't.
I was just like, I was like, okay, this is it. Like, it's never going to
I
end,
see.
you know,
Okay. Yeah.
instead of I wasn't as forward thinking. I was very much in the moment.
In the moment. Okay.
And I wasn't thinking about, you know, what's next. I was just so happy to have my first gig and all these things. And, you know, the business savvy part didn't kick in to say, hey, this is what you do with your money. This is what you do with your time. This is what you do. So you prepare for what's next. That wasn't in me. The humble spirit, I'm still to this day very humble, but it is a very humbling thing,
Right. Just
you
the
know,
experience.
just
Right.
the
You're already
experience
humble,
in
but
general.
just the experience in general. Yeah.
In general. And so after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. Because again, I only finished the 2-year conservatory program in my school.
Okay.
I was like, you know, 2 years of college, I don't go to a regular college. I want some more training. I want some more skills to sharpen up my skills. And then I want to get my bachelor's, you know. And so the campus that I went to was the LA campus after, remember I told you it was New York and then it was LA. So I did New York, was working, booked the gig. And then after that, went back to working a job. But then I was like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to do that. I don't know what's next. I actually did some other cool things in New York City too. I did the Apollo.
Oh, nice.
And that was pretty cool. And just to be able to participate in that and know that the legends were there. And I was like, okay, this is how I know I'm supposed to be in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like the closing out of New York for me after I did the Apollo. And then I went to LA to finish for my bachelor's.
So real quick before we transition, talk about the experience with the Apollo.
Oh, it was cool. It was nothing like it. It was the first time I performed in New York City. It was the first time I performed. No, because I did the Hair, the musical. I would say in that type of caliber, in terms of the culture, it was the first time that I performed in that type of setting.
Okay.
You know, it was like the BET Awards for me. I was like, okay. And that was really cool. I had submitted for it online, which was the irony of that. And they called me back probably like 6 months, like after I applied. I was like, oh my God, this is 6 months, you know, like, you know, what if I was gone? You know, I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of the opportunity. And came in, lived right up the street from it. And they have a thing where they do like, you know, similar to this, like interviews backstage. It was very much like the real thing. Like I felt like I was performing at like the BET Awards. So I will never forget it. I will never forget that experience. And I had my big afro. And what did I sing? I sung Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Nice.
And that was pretty cool.
Okay.
It was cool. It was great.
So things are rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Was there family support along the way?
Absolutely.
Did you have any naysayers as well while you're pursuing your craft?
I feel like you always low key have naysayers. No one wants to be known for being a naysayer ever. Okay. But there was so much love. Okay. You know, just
so nobody openly like,
no,
I think you should go do this or anything like that. Nobody trying, you know.
I didn't really have that.
That's
my
good.
Mom always like instilled in me, you know, make sure you are surrounded by people who keep you encouraged and that are going to, you know, push you to be better. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to do this, you've got to take it seriously, you know? So having that from her still to this day affects me, you know, in a way where it's like, this is the only type of company that I want to keep. Because it's always like, even in the entertainment, you know, and I'm big toe deep into it now, but like fully submersed into it. I have to really be covered with, with that, so that I can be prepared for when the naysayers do come.
Right.
Because they will.
Because anytime you're doing something, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Somebody that may have never, I would say they haven't operated out of the traditional box.
Mm-hmm.
That's generally like, oh, that you can't do that.
You
I
can't
mean,
do
I've
that.
experienced it myself for the
Yeah.
most part. I've had family support me,
Mm-hmm.
but I've had old employers.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, for sure.
no, how about you just come back and work for us? You can't do that
Right.
full time. And then
Correct.
on the phone, I'm like, well, I make 4 times what you guys can get. I'm not bragging, but I'm just like,
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
the math ain't mathing.
Exactly.
The math ain't mathing.
yeah. So now okay. So we did the Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
Things are kind of moving now. Like, where did you get at that point? Did you feel like the most confident? Like, oh, I'm here now. Like,
I thought I did, but
okay.
inside, no.
Inside, no.
Mm-mm.
Did you experience some storms along the way?
Oh, of course. What?
What type of
yes.
storms?
Well, it's
Or whichever ones you want to share.
I was gonna say, because we're gonna be here all night, all night. Really, it's really how I grew up. Just not being my dad not being around, and just the community that I was raised in, just moving from place to place all the time. It was a very negative environment. Unless I was like with my family and celebrating somebody's, something like that, or unless I was creating music. Other than that, it was kind of dark. It was the community can be very, sometimes if you let it, you can become a product of your environment.
For sure.
And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be the Black woman that they see that's like with an attitude. I want to be what I didn't see sometimes when I was a kid. Now, I've seen that from my mom. I've seen, her still going through her trials and tribulations, but I wanted to be a positive like light. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to bring more darkness into the world. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it definitely was, and it's hard being a strong friend. So for me, growing up, yeah, we moved around a lot, and dad not being there, and drugs in the 90s is crazy. That's all I gotta say. And being able to see that and grow up as a kid, not knowing what's going on, and seeing people that you look up to being affected by that. And not knowing that that's what that was until you're older, right. It has an effect on you. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, we are in a way better place, and I'm just so grateful for the dark and for those trials and tribulations that come, because they shape who you are and what you are, and
right.
And
make tougher skin.
Absolutely. Oh, and especially just hearing no. I would say, if anything, and when it comes to naysayers, just to backtrack, there's always, you're gonna hear 100. Like, I've heard no way more than the average person will ever hear no. You know what I'm saying? So that in itself gave me tough skin in a way where, okay, you saying no now. But later on, don't try to spin the block.
Give you the Mike Jones treatment. Back then, you didn't want me.
Now I'm hot.
There you go.
So yeah. So naysayers, yes. Because, when people don't think you're right for the part, or they don't think, you don't sing it like this, and I want this sound. So no, you can't be a part of this, or so.
Do you think that there's a positive side to the no's, though? Because like I said, it makes that tough skin, and it kind of, I would even say for myself, I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to get a bunch of no's on this, but all I need is maybe 5 yeses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I know I'm not going to get 100. It's just impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And then you learn over time not to take it personal, or do you take it personal because you're creative and you created this art out of, your inspiration, out of your being. And when somebody has a critique, or they say no, how do you separate that? How do you not take that personal?
So I used to take it personal in terms of me not getting a part. I'm very coachable. I'm very teachable. I prefer someone to give me some type of feedback so I can be better. I'm always looking to improve, back then and today. So for me, I took it personal when I didn't get a part because, it's like I wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? When the whole time I wasn't tall enough, So it's like something out of my control. So really, to all those young performers out there, sometimes you might not get it, and that's not a bad thing. You're being covered from something that might destroy you, even in a way, is how I look at it now. Like, I dodged a bullet. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes you might think you want something, but you don't know what comes with that. You don't know what kind of stress comes with that. Everybody like, oh, Beyonce this and, Jennifer Hudson this. And it's like, you don't know what those people go through. Be careful what you ask for.
Exactly.
I don't want to be the next Beyonce. Yeah. I want to be the next Sherae, and the best version of me. So those no's helped me get to you right here. You know what I'm saying? Like those yeses helped me get right here. So I'm perfectly fine with both. Now, definitely, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my. So I was affected more emotionally because I thought they didn't like me, But who cares? Who cares about it? And I cared clearly back in the day, but now, no.
So how did you get this Caribbean cruise contract?
Oh, that's so funny. So this was right before the pandemic started too. I was working at a gym. And
so is it early 2020 or is this late 2019?
Early 2019.
Okay.
2019. I think it was like 2019. Yeah, 2019 because COVID started when, like 2020?
March 2020.
Yeah. So 2019, I was working at a gym and a friend of mine, we always used to play karaoke at the desk because they knew I sung. So karaoke at the desk. He was like, "Oh, girl, yeah." And one of the gays, he was like, "Yeah, girl. So you should audition for this cruise company, Royal Caribbean, coming to DC." I was like, "They coming to DC?" I was like, "They auditioned?" I was like, "Let me see." So he showed it to me, showed me the post and sent it to me. He was like, "Yeah, you should go audition. Like that'll be really cool." And I was like, "You know what? I should go audition because I know how to audition. That's how I was trained." And I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to audition. I didn't think about what, would come of it or anything. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to prepare for this audition. Thank you for sending it to me. And that's another thing, too. A lot of people don't take advantage of when people, like, I'm going to be that friend. If you send something to my way, like a resource or something, I'm going to make sure to pursue it or at least give it a shot. And so did that and prepare for the audition. Did my pre-work, rehearsed, figure out what song I was going to sing, what dances, got in the gym a bit so I worked at a gym, so I better be, moving around. And that was the prep work for it. Went day of to the audition and I was like, oh, I'm going to book this. Like, you just know, you have a gut feeling, because again, you got the dancer in the corner stretching. Then you got, the question person.
Scoping the scene.
Yeah, you scoping the scene. So, and it's the same thing when you go to any of these auditions. You got the motor mouth, running her mouth, trying to talk to everybody. Hey, how do you, oh, I'm so nervous. I don't know. So I'm just kind of assessing the room, trying to find a quiet area to just go to and get centered. And went in there. And just gave them Sherae. I didn't try to be somebody else. I sung my best song, did the best that I could. And before I know it, I think about, I think they gave me, no, because I put a 30-day notice. There it is again. Same cycle. Put a 30-day notice in to the job. And before you know it, I was in Miami flew out to Miami for rehearsals January of 2020. And then COVID started in March.
So how did that actually play out? Because now COVID's here. Mm-hmm. Now you got the contract in January. Because once COVID hit, everybody was like, I remember there was cruise ships out there. And they were.
I was one of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
So it was so funny because I think I was going away. we knew months ahead of time when I booked it, and I made a whole thing, had a going away celebration where I had a band, and like we celebrated in December before New Year's Eve. And then New Year's Eve, boom, come January, we are, because COVID really didn't, like, COVID had just started and people were just getting sick.
Mhm.
It didn't like shut down and quarantine started and like all of that stuff until March. You know what I'm saying? So really from December to March, that's the time frame where I flew out to Miami for rehearsal. It was still just business as
Everything
usual.
was still rolling.
Yeah, it was still business as usual. No one knew or anticipated how it was going to go. So they're like, oh, please, people just getting sick. They be all right.
Mhm.
Take some Tylenol. They be all right. And so went to Miami. I had to go through so much stuff because we were going where COVID started in Wuhan. We were going to Singapore. Royal Caribbean ground zero. So COVID started January, was in Miami. February was in when we left to go to the ship. They fly you to rehearsal, and then from rehearsal, they fly you to the ship. So we had to go through like Chinese visas and all of this stuff. And then we get to the ship, everything's normal. We still had to go. Matter of fact, no, it wasn't. We had to take PCR tests before, like, we went through some, like, customs was just way longer than usual, right? Like when you internationally travel, you got to go through customs and make sure your paperwork and all of that stuff is clear. But we had to take like tests to make sure no one was sick and stuff. So we like, what's going on? Like, why do we have to do all this extra stuff? People have on masks. They have on
you
like,
still don't know clearly what's going on.
Still clearly don't know what's going on. We just thinking, you know, it's people just sick, you know? And so then still business as usual. We literally, I'll never forget it. We were installing the show. So we made it to the ship. It's February. We're installing the show. We're rehearsing on the cruise ship. And there was, we were in Thailand, and it was an overnight, or no, it was like a day in Thailand or something, like where the guests were able to get off the boat. So whenever the guests can get off, we can get off. Just don't miss that boat. And so we got off, and Thailand is very cheap, by the way. Everyone should go vacation in Thailand.
So everything's cheap.
Everything.
Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
God. I took $50 off the boat and had the time of my life in Thailand. Little do I know that is the last time I'm going to be off the boat until 9 months later.
You're on a boat for 9 months.
9.
And but you were originally supposed to be on a boat for how long?
6.
Wow. So almost a year.
Almost a year.
On a boat.
And could have stayed longer if I wanted to. Because after we came from Thailand, that's when they made like the state of emergency, like all of that stuff. And the performers, we was just, you know, just as drunk, like, oh, okay, no crew members, cool. We got the boat to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Woo woo. But little did we know, we were about to not be having, like, this wasn't going to be a traditional. No performances. It was so crazy. We had to comply with the performers' protocol that was on land and at sea, maritime law, like all of these things. We could, mind you, it's a cast of 15. Honey, I've never told you this story. It's a cast of 15, maybe 20. There could not be more than like 8 to 10 people on stage at one time. And if they were on stage, they had to wear masks.
Oh, wow. That just totally throws a wrench into it. It just like.
Meanwhile, you have dancers. The stage that I was performing in, it was a 360 theater. So people are coming from below the stage and from above the stage. They're hanging like puppets, if you will, the dancers, right? Okay. you got to wear a mask and you're in the air doing this acrobatic stuff. You're dancing at a high level energy and you've got to wear, like the dancers would be wringing their masks out like in sweat because that's what we had. That's how they had to do. Now the singers, we kind of got away scot-free because how were we going to sing with the mask on?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like,
So if this, they might as well just shut the whole
you
show
might,
down.
we are going to click my sick track. And I said it, click my sick track. If I sing with a mask, you're not about to play me. So we had to re-rehearse. We had like 3 versions of our shows because we had to be in compliance with how we were going to make sure we still social distanced on stage. It was just so much.
So was it, and it was a short time crunch, I'm assuming, that you had to re-rehearse this from scratch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Luckily, you know, the choreography is already set, you know, the music's already set. All of the hard part is done. But reshaping the show, we definitely had to spend time doing that. So for me, that was my first time on the ship. I've never done, you know, anything to that extent. So it was all new to me.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
And you literally got thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
Not just because like, hey, this is my first time on the ship, but there's a pandemic.
There's a pandemic, right? And so I couldn't enjoy being able to get on and off the boat. You know, it was very untraditional. I probably got off the ship probably like I can count on one hand, you know.
Out of 9 months?
Out of 9 months.
On one hand that
absolutely,
you can count.
where we got off like the boat.
So how was your level of cabin fever like with
Man, everybody was just drunk. We was just a mess. I'm gonna be completely honest. Everybody was just a drunken mess. It was very high school in a way because when you're on a ship, it's like Noah's Ark. You know, you got people from all walks of life, every like melting pot, right? And so you got the performers, you got the cooks, you got the bartenders, you got, you know, the engineers, you got all of these people, you know, the hosts, you got, you know. So it was fun. It was fun. It was nothing like it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You have the veterans who like people who they were going. Royal Caribbean handled it with grace and class. I really respect and I will work for the company again just because of how they handled the situation in the middle of a pandemic. We didn't have not one case on board because really it was the guest who would bring the stuff on to you know what I'm saying? So they shut it down early enough where, you know, we in rehearsal, we preparing. So when they do open it back up, we have 3 different type of shows. So we know how to perform it and who's a part of what. But the veterans were really the ones that were pissed. They were so entitled. They were just like, oh, this is like, some people wanted to leave. They wanted to go home and stuff like that. You can opt to go home, of course. But it was just tough because people didn't want you, you know, they didn't want you, like Singapore, for example. They was like, y'all are all contaminated. We not letting y'all off this boat.
The plague. Like,
yes, we don't want to touch y'all.
Here.
And we like, wait a minute. It's y'all who are the plague. You know what I'm saying?
So everybody's pointing the finger at each other like.
That's why you had the news in America like, all of these cruise ships lost at sea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so, That was the headlines.
That was the headline. Lost at sea. We ain't lost. The captain know where he going. You know what I'm saying? But we couldn't dock. The countries wouldn't let us off the boat because they didn't want to bring, you know, and then you heard about some cruise companies, we ain't gonna say no names, but they had outbreaks like crazy on their ship. We know. We know, but we gonna keep it cute. They didn't, you know, Royal Caribbean is definitely the bougiest to me, like Royal and maybe Norwegian of cruise ships, like Carnival, ciao. You know, but like we ain't gonna name no names, no more names. But it's like the way that they handled it with like care, decency, and in order, the marketing, you got to give it to those people. Those marketing people that had to come up with how to tell somebody to social distance on a flyer, like to make it look cool and make it. It's a lot that goes into it, but I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. Like it was great, and we had to get PCR tested every port, like every 2 to 3 days, meaning this thing is going way up your nose. So I was literally, that was the biggest part to me. That was like annoying, but it was great. I recommend doing that. And I want to do it again eventually, possibly, maybe, but because this time it'll be different. I'll get a chance to get off and on and, bring family on and stuff like that. So, you know, it was sad for the veterans, but for the people who were new coming in like me, it just felt like this was what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, and that right there sounds like that's your first time doing a cruise line.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, being thrusted into a pandemic, it's like, well, I can handle anything now.
Yeah.
Bring it on, basically.
It was that.
Yeah, because now your next time on there, we don't have a pandemic. You're
Correct.
like, this a walk in the park.
Right. Exactly it.
So how did you manage? Okay, so you're supposed to be on it for 6 months, but it really turned into 9 months.
Yeah.
Now, by being on it for 9 months, do they pay you for 9 months? Or?
Yeah. So we had the option to either keep our original 6. Some people wanted to leave. Some people wanted to stay. I was one of those people because wasn't nothing going on at home. And it was a pandemic. So nobody was really working. People were losing their jobs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, I needed that coin. So I was like, go ahead, extend her.
Yeah,
and they're still going to, so extend her. And then we will see y'all later. Mama was good. Daddy was good. Well, he was still going through some changes, but nonetheless still good. You know what I'm saying? And yes, I just decided to stay a little bit longer just to get some more coin.